Good noon, all of you. I hope I'm clearly visible and audible. I welcome you to this session, Overcoming the Speed versus Comprehension Dilemma. Right? So, we've been having this CAT series where we've talked to you about the common problems that you face, right? How to improve on your comprehension, how exactly to comprehend an RC passage, then how to tackle a difficult RC passage, so to say. So, today, continuing with that, we are going to tackle another issue, the speed versus comprehension dilemma, which a lot of you face. So, we are going to talk about is it really a dilemma or not? And if it is, then how can we actually resolve it, okay, and become better readers, right? So, on this note, let's begin the session. Okay. Now I need some reaction from your end, some responses so that I know that you are there and we can begin. Yes, the agenda of the session is very, very clear. We'll discuss this dilemma, we'll present solutions to it, and of course, we'll demonstrate this smart reading that I'm talking about, becoming better readers that I'm talking about through an RC passage. That's always there, right? Okay, then. So, the thing is that we need to be very clear as to what we exactly need to comprehend when reading an RC passage, isn't it? So if I'm not even, if it's not clear to me as to what I have to comprehend, then how will I read the passage right? Okay, so this is something that I established in a previous session as well, that you need not comprehend each and every word of your RC passage. Always keep this in mind. Okay, what you need to comprehend rather is the gist. You have to capture the gist. And how do you capture the gist? We discussed this also. That first, get an understanding of the broad topic, that okay, this is what is being discussed about here. Okay, so if you remember, I gave you the example of the Russia Ukraine war, but within the Russia Ukraine war topic as well, I could discuss so many things. I could, let's say, discuss the social impact of the war, the social impact. On this social impact also, I could have some views, right? I may have some views. One is that I'm simply informing you about it, I'm just detailing it, okay, which is less likely for a CAT passage. The other is that I am giving you my viewpoint about it. So what is my viewpoint? That what kind of social impact is going to happen? Okay, how how will we be able to recover from it? So maybe I have given some viewpoints, some suggestions regarding it. What is that? So you have to capture the broad topic first and then the viewpoint of the author. Right. Now, just give me a second. Hi Ankita, good morning. Just saw your message. Okay. Uh, so once we've established that central idea or message, the next thing that we have to do is we have to understand how the author has built his or her story. I think that bit is also clear to you. In case you've seen the previous session, this is something I captured in detail there. So these are the two things that you need to comprehend. You need not understand the meaning of each and every word, right? So always keep this in mind, that one is I need not know the meaning of each and every word, and therefore I may not even have to focus on each and every word, right? How will you read speedily? If you focus on each and every word quite slowly, then you'll not be able to read speedily. So once I know this, I can then take a step towards reading speedily. Okay, now I also suggested to you some technique regarding this, how to, understand the structure of the passage. So watch that session in case you haven't, and I will repeat a bit of it when we come to the solution aspect, right? I'll repeat a bit of it. Now, what is speed reading? Yes, so I think the starting point can be what speed reading is not, right? What it is not, and then we can establish what it actually is, right? Uh, and for feedback taken, Jaisuman. So I do have TISNET lectures this month. Don't worry, right? But we need to prepare students for CAT 23 as well. So hence this lecture. Now, does it mean that we read everything fast? every paragraph, each and every sentence fast. Does speed reading mean that? Even you know this intuitively that it does not mean that. Okay, speed reading does not mean hurrying through the text, which is how a lot of students interpret it, and they say mujhse to nahi hota speedily read. I can't read speedily, I don't understand things. Either I can comprehend or I can speed read. I can't do both. They think of both as mutually exclusive, which is not the case. Okay, so what exactly do you have to do then? Okay, I think this point didn't get captured here. You have to be a smart reader. You have to read smartly. Okay, so, more than being a speedy reader, you have to be a smart reader. So, sounds like a very general, vague statement, be a smart reader. How can we become smart readers? See, I always give this analogy, when you learn to drive, right? So you don't drive at the same speed in every condition. So if there's traffic, you'll slow down, right? If there's a red light, of course you have to stop. Then if it's a highway, you drive faster. So similarly, when you speed read, different areas in an RC passage demand different kinds of reading. For example, I have always told you this, the opening paragraph. Opening paragraph हमेशा carefully पढ़ना है. We always have to read the opening paragraph carefully. Why? Because you are just learning, about the passage. You are learning what the author wants to talk about. You are diving into the passage, right? So the opening paragraph helps to build a background in your head. Okay, this is roughly what the passage is going to talk about. And sometimes it is so important that it may even contain the main idea. Sometimes, not always. So that's why read the opening paragraph carefully. It contains important information about the topic of the passage, right? Similarly, again, I have told you this when we discussed how to read an RC passage, right? How to approach an RC passage. In that session, I discussed with you that the opening sentences of various paragraphs, the opening sentences of the various paragraphs that form an RC passage, they are again crucial. Why? Because a lot of times they may tell you what is going to be talked about in this paragraph. Not necessary, but a lot of times they can do that. So, of course, I will never speed read through them. If I know that there is a chance that I may get to know about this entire paragraph from this one sentence, will I speed read through it? I will not. Then you must be thinking what to speed read. Yes, if I'm reading everything carefully, what is it that I should speed read? A lot of times there can be a number of examples present in an RC passage which are there to support the author's view, okay, the author's idea that is there in that vicinity only. In that vicinity only, either above it or below it, you will find that idea. So this example is not as important as that viewer idea when you are trying to get a gist of the passage. It may be important for a question later on. So then you can always come back and reread it. But for establishing that gist, okay, in your mind, it is not that important. So examples, dates, numbers, data, which are meant to support all the supporting details that are supporting some key ideas, some key view, they are meant to be speed read. Okay, so be a smart reader, vary your reading speed, right? Karishma says, go slow in the important parts and read quickly through the less important parts. Absolutely, Karishma. And apply this to different genres as well. For instance, the business and economics genre happens to be my strength. Okay, so when I read that RC passage, because I'm familiar with that genre, because I like that genre, right? And because I've read a lot from that genre, right? I tend to read it more speedily as compared to, let's say, something related to political philosophy, right? So that is a genre which for me requires relatively more comprehension. So when I read that something from that genre, I may not be as fast as when I read from the genre business and economy. So be smart, make those decisions on the spot. Okay, the level of language here looks slightly more difficult. I may need to go a little slowly. The language here is easy, the topic is of my interest. Oh, I can breeze through it. So be smart readers. That is what speed reading for your CAT examination at least is about. Okay, you have to build smart reading habits, not just speed reading habits. Okay. So what contributes to the dilemma that, if I read speedily, I don't understand it? A lot of it is our psychology. Okay, let me assure you that. It's a psychological barrier that we create that if I read speedily, I don't understand it. And, we speak from our experience. When we say this, we speak from our experience. So let's say I read something that was tough for me. Okay, meaning I didn't know various vocabulary words. I was not familiar with the genre, and it took me a lot of time to comprehend. So based on that, I'll make this judgment that, if I read this speedily, I'll not understand it. So these are the usual barriers to effective reading that we have discussed in our previous sessions. And part of, reading speedily involves overcoming these barriers. So when you work on your high frequency vocabulary, when you read articles, essays from a particular genre, okay, you build familiarity with that genre, you Google the meanings of the terms that you don't understand after reading the article. So, a lot of work towards speed reading happens through comprehension, building your comprehension. So, work on these areas, build, and that's how you build comprehension. And automatically, you will see that you are now reading something that was earlier difficult for you relatively more speedily. And why have I highlighted this barrier? Concentration. Because a lot of times when we say मुझसे तो speedily नहीं होता, समझ नहीं आता, that's because we are not concentrating on the text. We have built this habit of distractions. We get distracted and then we reread, and then we feel that only when I reread, only when I read slowly, I understand. So see this, if this happens with you, okay, sit one day and see if it is the concentration that is contributing to slow reading. If that is the case, you have to remove this habit from your lifestyle. Okay, you have to give yourself dedicated time stretches when you read, and you do not do anything else, just read. Okay, I have talked to you about these 40-minute time stretches again in the previous session. So they don't just help you to build a reading habit, to build a reading stamina. They also help you to improve your reading speed, to build your comprehension, and to overcome this speed versus comprehension dilemma. Make sense to everyone? Any questions that you have regarding this? You can ask me, okay? Any questions regarding how to build vocabulary, how to build familiarity, how to improve our concentration, right? So this session is meant to answer these questions, because then only you'll overcome that speed versus comprehension dilemma. When you know what to focus on, when you know how to read, right? And when you work hard to build that habit, to build that stamina, speed reading. Okay. So these are the solutions that I've already discussed with you in the course of discussing the problem. Build comprehension of these unfamiliar genres, the genres that feel alien to you right now. There may be some of those, right? So for some students, for instance, they haven't read anything related to sociology till now. That will feel like an alien genre. So you build its comprehension. Read more and more articles related to it, non-fiction books related to it, and at the same time, when you don't understand the meaning of certain terms, after reading that article, Google their meaning afterwards. Because right now you're building that familiarity, you can Google. Then start speed reading from the interesting genres. Students try speed reading when they see, okay, let me try to read speedily. They would usually try to speed read the difficult articles that belong to genres that they don't even find interesting. So, how will speed reading happen there? It will happen at the cost of comprehension itself. So, don't do that. Okay, so let's say I find thrillers interesting. So, I make it a point that whenever, I read Sherlock Holmes earlier, I would speed read it because वो मुझसे हो भी जाता था बहुत easily. I used to find the genre interesting. So speed reading starts from the interesting genres, and in the background you build comprehension for the non-interesting or the unfamiliar genres, and then when you improve that comprehension, then you speed read those genres as well. Right, and by speed reading, you don't have to have some, supernatural speeds. That's not what we are expecting of you. So tell me, what is the speed? What is the speed that is required from you, or for a cat RC passage? Yes, reading a cat RC passage. What do you think? कितना speed demand कर रहे हैं हम? Yes. So, the speed that we demand from you, while reading a CAT RC passage is usually 250 words per minute, because usually your passages are of 500 words. So our aim is that we are able to read a passage in approximately 2 minutes, right? That's our aim. And you'll be happy to know that most adults have a reading speed of 200 to 250 words per minute. Most adults already have this speed. So today I'll give you this homework that you have to check your reading speed, what your reading speed right now is, and if it is, let's say not up to the mark, if it is not falling in this range, how can you work on it? Okay, my suggestion to you would be that even if it is 250 words per minute, try to reach 300 words per minute. It will help you for exams such as IIFT, which ask you longer RC passages, right? That's my suggestion to you. Okay. Then be a smart and efficient reader, as we've already discussed. Okay. By efficiency, I mean no lack of concentration. Indulge in target based reading. Give yourself targets. So, if let's say I am able to read 10 pages in 15 minutes comfortably, so the next day I'll give myself a target of 11 pages in 15 minutes. So, have these progressive targets where you keep improving, keep increasing the speed progressively. Our aim is to not make you uncomfortable and make you read hurriedly. Our aim is to train you in such a way that your comfort zone speed itself goes up. And how does that go up? Through regular reading, through target based reading, through focused reading, through building familiarity, building comprehension. So ये सब उसके elements हैं. Okay. And a very very crucial point for all of you, uh, use these techniques, mind mapping and visualization. So when I talked about understanding the structure of an RC passage, I talked about this technique called mind mapping, isn't it? So what is mind mapping? That when you read an RC passage, you keep noting the important ideas in your head and also notice the relationship between those key ideas. Okay, so let's say this is para 1 and it holds one important key idea. Para 2 holds two important key ideas. So I'll not only keep jotting them down in my mind, I'll also notice what is the relationship of key idea 1 to 2 and 3. What is the relationship of 2 to 3? So this structure, this skeleton, I'll keep building in my head. Okay, and this will help me to get the central idea, the main argument, the core argument of the author. Right? So use this, it helps to get an overall picture, overall understanding of the passage, and it also ensures that you don't get lost in various minor details, right? Minor चीजों में आप खो नहीं जाते when you are building this map in your head. Another thing that I do for passages that I find boring is visualization. I practice this. So I think of that thing happening in front of me. So let's say, although it's not the case, let's say history bores me. Okay. So I am reading a passage related to history and it talks about the World War II and a particular day in the span of World War II. So I'll start imagining that day actively based on what my text says. Okay, so the soldiers did this, they did that. So I'll imagine that happening, visualize, picturize that happening, and that makes it slightly more interesting for me and more comprehensible for me. Another technique that I've not mentioned here is unpackaging. Whenever I come across dense paragraphs, dense sentences, जो बहुत ही difficult लगते हैं comprehend करने में, I simplify various words for myself. Okay, so if let's say if I use a word reprehensible, yes, reprehensible. Any idea what it means? Rowdy guy? Can you tell me? If you've heard it in some context, this is morally reprehensible. Something that you find disgraceful. It's just a fancy word for disgraceful. So let's say I came across this word, I will recall, okay, oh yes, I've read it in a negative context, morally reprehensible. मतलब जो morally सही नहीं है. So something that's not right, something that's not acceptable. So I just simplified it for myself to not acceptable and proceeded. So if I find unusually dense sentences or paragraphs, I keep simplifying words as I go for myself. Okay, keep simplifying ideas also. So these are the things that help you tremendously to derive a skeleton and a gist of the passage. And this will in turn help you to become speedy readers as well. Okay, so far so good. Everything is clear. Anything that you wish to ask, please do. See, we have done this so far. We've discussed what we need to comprehend, what is speed reading, okay? Then what is this speed reading versus comprehension dilemma? What are the factors that contribute to it? And lastly, how can we overcome these barriers? So let's implement this in an RC passage. The passage that I've chosen today is again not unusually difficult because I knew that it would be difficult to implement speed reading there, right? So our agenda, I am not giving you any timers today, right? My agenda is that when you read this paragraph and the subsequent paragraphs, you will be focused. That means no distractions. You will try to read with a relative sense of urgency. मतलब बहुत ही leisure में आके नहीं पढ़ना है उसे that, oh, I have all the time in the world. No, with a relative sense of urgency, thinking that once I have read a sentence, it will not be available to me any longer. Just, hack your brain into doing that. So you have to read one sentence. You have to try that you read one sentence once only and you don't regress. This ensures that we stay focused on the text. So initially, students use pointers for this. So today you can also use your mouse pointer and read like this, pointing like this. So use your mouse pointer, stay focused, don't regress and read with a relative sense of urgency. ऐसा नहीं है बहुत मजे मजे में पढ़ रहे हैं ठीक है I am not giving you a timer okay so that there is no nervousness because of the timer. Let's see how much we are able to comprehend when we read with this sense of urgency. ठीक है all right then everybody focused alert. This is your first paragraph. Read? So by now, all of you should have read this, right? And can you tell me? So this was your first paragraph. I told you that we need to pay particular attention to the first paragraph. Can you tell me that if I have to identify one sentence that sort of captures this paragraph, which one would that be? So this paragraph details a particularly unusual technique. See, the moment I read this phrase, no, I was particularly interested. Okay, so this is something that I have to focus on. An unusual technique for what? For surviving the daily chill. Then I detail that. Then I give details of that. So this was the key idea, the unusual technique which has been detailed here. Okay. Next paragraph again, sense of urgency. Done. So again, there are a lot of numbers here. But if I ask you to identify the key idea, what is that? It talks about the analysis by researchers, yes, using thermographic images, computer simulations. Then what did they find? The findings are what are the key ideas for me, aren't they? So the scientists used a simulation to determine how much heat was lost. And what did they discover? They discovered that by keeping their outer surface below air temperature, the birds might paradoxically be able to draw very slight amounts of heat from the air around them, right? And then we will probably talk about this in detail in the next paragraph, right? So this here, very important, the findings. And you see, wherever we have such opinions, so unusual technique, paradoxically, these show that this is the viewpoint of the author. Okay? Okay. Let's have a look at the third one then. Done. So those of you who are very comfortable with science, with the science genre, who remember conduction, convection, radiation, would find it easy, isn't it? And please tell me what are those the most important sentences here? In the first bit of this paragraph, I simply explain what radiation is, isn't it? I'm just explaining how this radiation happens, how the heat gets radiated, and they lose heat. Then I say that though they also have an additional, see, though, transition words important, okay? The penguins, though, have an additional strategy. And then I mention what is their additional strategy. So through the convection, so through radiation, they are losing heat, but through convection, they might gain back a little of this heat. They might gain back a little of this heat through thermal convection. Okay, and that is, see, the author has even explained what convection is for you, the transfer of heat via the movement of a fluid, in this case, the air. Okay, and then I just explain that phenomenon, how that happens. So I've in these paragraphs, I've explained heat loss through radiation and the additional strategy up their sleeve, that is gaining heat back through convection, right? So I hope this makes sense to you. Okay, so this part, yes, this is also this is basically detailing that how when they lose heat through radiation, how they maintain body temperature. This could be another important point here, as Rowdy guy is saying, right? Mainly we were explaining radiation and convection here. Okay, then the last bit, yes. This heat. Now you need to make connections with the previous paragraph. This heat here means the heat that they're getting through convection. Okay. Done. So here, this entire paragraph is actually important for us, particularly this idea, isn't it? At the very least, the method by which a penguin's plumage wicks heat gains heat from the bitterly cold air that surrounds it, helps to cancel out some of the heat that's radiating from its interior. So basically, this convection is at least cancelling out some of the heat loss that happens through radiation. Okay, so convection cancels out perhaps partially the heat loss through radiation. And then we also detail why it counts, why this is important, why it is all the more important. We discuss that also. So even this bit is important here, that why is it so important to have this heat, right? So it is important because of their demanding breeding cycle. Okay, and then we explain why that breeding cycle is so demanding. Hope this makes sense. Yes. So this passage, now that, see, how did we proceed in this? We maintained concentration, right? We kept noting the key ideas, right? And we also related the key ideas with, let's say, the idea that I found in the previous paragraph. Okay. And we, by noting all of this, we have got a sense of the essence of this passage. What is this passage really focusing on, right? So this is how you have to read, and by doing this, you will focus on selective areas and you'll automatically become speedier readers as well. Okay, so let's have a look at question 1. In the last sentence of paragraph 3, slightly warmer air and at a slightly colder temperature refer to dash and dash respectively. Okay, so here are these really lengthy options. Why don't we go back and read what it really refers to and then read the options, because the options here seem to be pretty lengthy, don't they? So instead of getting caught up in them, I would prefer to go back and reread that portion. What is the slightly warmer air and what is at a slightly colder temperature? Let's go back. So this was para 3, right? This was 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So the slightly warmer air, as the cold Antarctic air cycles around their bodies, slightly warmer air comes into contact with the plumage. Okay, so basically, I would prefer now to read the previous sentence also. ये किस context में बात हो रही है, क्यों cycle हो रही है cold Antarctic air? So read this entire portion. Okay, this entire convection explanation. Now read it with focus. Yes. Outer plumage colder than the air, right? The cold Antarctic air cycles around their bodies. So slightly warmer air comes into contact with the plumage and donates minute amounts of heat back to the penguins, then cycles away at a slightly colder temperature. Has everybody been able to visualize this? Yes. Tell me. Has everyone been able to visualize this? I need some responses from your end. Okay, I need some response, then only I'll proceed. Okay, perfect. Then tell me what the answer to question 1 should be. Yes. Okay. Keep eliminating. Read all the options and then only answer. Which air appears warm to the penguins? See, penguins' plumage has a temperature which is lower than the surrounding air. So the cold Antarctic air The cold Antarctic air. Is it cold for them? It is not cold for them, right? So the slightly warmer air refers to the cold Antarctic air itself, right? It's not this, it is not this. Between 2 and 4, tell me, what should be the answer? Yes, I need more responses. Come on. Three, okay. Karishma says three. The air trapped in the plumage is slightly warmer. No, no. See this. What is happening here? Let me draw it for you. I think that will be better. So I wanted you to imagine this on your own. So let's say this is a penguin. Okay, this is my humble attempt at a penguin. Okay. Now, the penguin's plumage, these are, let's say, the feathers. They are very cold. They are colder than the air around them. Colder than the air around them. So when the air comes in contact with it, this is the Antarctic air, the cold Antarctic air. When it comes in contact with them, okay, initially it will be slightly warmer than them, right? It will be slightly warmer than the penguin's plumage. So the slightly warmer air comes into contact with the plumage. The Antarctic air itself has been called the slightly warmer air because वो plumage से तो ज़्यादा warm है, right? Plumage colder है. It comes into contact with the plumage, and then what does it do? It donates some minute amounts of heat back to the penguins. तो वो कुछ अपना हीट ट्रांसफर कर देती है पेंगुइन्स को. After this heat transfer, what is going to happen? It will become slightly colder. So it then cycles away. It then goes back at a slightly colder temperature. It becomes slightly colder and goes back. This is what has been detailed here. Now, so the cold Antarctic air whose temperature is higher than that of the plumage, yes, uska temperature is higher than that of the plumage. That is why it is warmer than the plumage. Correct. And the fall in temperature of the Antarctic air, finally uska temperature fall ho jata hai because it comes in contact with the cold plumage. So, and the fall in the temperature of the Antarctic air after it has transmitted some heat to the plumage. So, fourth is our answer and not 2, not 3 either. Okay, why not 2? It does not become warmer because of radiation. Remember, this was written in the context of convection. This is happening as a result of convection. So it becomes warmer not because of radiation but because of convection. Also, the fall in the temperature of the surrounding air after thermal convection. So what is this surrounding air? The fall in the temperature of the Antarctic air after convection. This part is fine, that after the convection there is a fall, but surrounding air is the Antarctic air. We had to talk about that, right? So 4 is more appropriate. Hope this makes sense. It is not the air trapped in the plumage, it is the Antarctic air. If it does not, please let me know. Okay, when you don't respond, I am at a loss. I'm not able to gauge whether you understood something or not, whether I still need to explain more. So okay, please help me out here, right? Now see, we read this carefully, paradoxically. We will still go back, okay, and reread it. Just read the question and the options. Yes. Read the options. Let's see this. Although this is an easy question, so the scientists discovered that by keeping their outer surface below air temperature, by keeping their outer surface colder, the birds might paradoxically be able to draw very slight amounts of heat from the air around them. They're able to get heat from the air around them. So, this is what is paradoxical. Let me see what you say now. I need 5 responses at least. Nobody has responded. In that case, I'll tell. Okay, Rehan has, I think. I hope this is the answer to this question. Uh, or maybe it's the previous one. See, what is paradoxical is their plumage, their feathers are colder than the air. Their feathers are colder than the air, surrounding them, and yet they are able, because of this strategy only, because of this strategy, keeping their feathers colder than the air, they're able to gain some amount of heat back from the atmosphere. So they're able to keep their bodies relatively warmer. So keeping a part of their body colder, the part being the plumage, helps penguins keep their bodies warmer. Okay, this is what the author finds paradoxical. Paradox means a contradiction, a discrepancy, right? So this is contradictory. You're keeping a part of the body colder, but because of it, you are able to keep your body warmer, right? So something that is contradictory, and that's why 2 is the answer. Good, Karishma. Okay, now question 3. All of the following, if true, would negate the findings of the study reported in the passage except. So the study findings, the entire para 2 was devoted to study findings. So you should be able to recall this, that you have to go back to para 2 for this. I have to find out that one option that does not negate the study. There are 3 options that are going to negate the findings of the study. One of them will not. I just have to find that one option, right? जो against नहीं जा रही studies के. Read these options once. Yes. So apart from option 1, all of 2, 3 and 4 have data which needs to be verified, which needs to be checked. I'll have to go back. Now tell me, does 1 negate the findings or not? Because if it does not, then 1 is the answer. I need not even go back. Does 1 negate the findings or not? One does negate the finding, yes. If I'm saying there is no heat transfer happening at all, if there's no heat transfer happening through the penguin's plumage, then of course the entire study, then whatever the study has found, radiation, convection, that just becomes invalid, right? If there's no heat transfer happening at all. So yes, 1 is negating the findings of the study, and that's why 1 is not the answer. Let's see whether 2, 3, 4, what do they say? They talk about the average temperature recorded during the month of June in the area of the study were minus 10 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's see if we've talked about this. The temperature on the plumage of the plumage on the penguins' heads, chests, and backs were found to be 1.84, 7.24, and 9.676 degrees respectively. 4 says the average temperature of the feet of the penguins in the month of June 2008 were found to be 2.76 degrees Fahrenheit. So feet, then we have to check head, chest, back, temperature there, and the temperature, air temperature. That's what we have to check. Let's go back. So here, the passage says that during that period, the average air temperature was 0.32 degrees Fahrenheit, right? Whereas, and why is this relevant? Why is this relevant? Because we are saying that the plumage was even colder. The plumage was even colder. Okay, their feet was an average 1.76 degrees Fahrenheit. This was their warmest body part. This was their warmest body part, right? And the plumage, see the temperature of the plumage is minus में है सबका, minus 1.84, minus 7.24, minus 9.76 degrees Fahrenheit respectively. So overall, nearly the entire surface of the penguin's bodies was below freezing because it's minus. Whereas what does my option say? मेरा ऑप्शन तो पॉजिटिव बता रहा है ये. So this is again inconsistent with the findings and therefore it cannot be the answer. Right? Between 2 and 4, what do you think the answer is? See, the feet was their warmest part. The feet was their warmest part. Right? And the temperature that we have said, the average air temperature was 0.32 degrees, but the plumage was even colder. Plumage was even colder, और जो coldest body part था that was minus 9.76. तो अगर ये -10 हो गया, yes, if the air temperature becomes -10, then what is happening? The air is becoming even colder than the coldest body part of the penguin. Yes? So does 2 negate? Does 2 not negate? Tell me quickly. 2 negate कर रहा है नहीं कर रहा findings को? If the air temperature itself becomes colder than the plumage, then of course this negates. But this does not negate because the feet is the warmest part, right? It can become warmer than 1 point something also. 1.76 was what was given. No, it can become even warmer than that. It's the warmest body part. So this is something that is not negating. You had to, this was more of a data interpretation question. You had to cross check what data was given, what was its relevance, and then negate. Fourth is the answer here. Hope this helps. I want you to be more active, otherwise I'll end up telling all the answers. This is a very easy question. I want you to answer this. Which of the following can be responsible for emperor penguins losing body heat? Tell me. Because of what are they losing body heat? Food metabolism helps them maintain their body temperature. Yes? Let's see who answers the fastest. Rehan, what do you think? Nafisha? So, as Rowdy Guy pointed it out to us when we were reading the RC passage, that the food metabolism, it helps us to maintain body temperature when we are losing heat. So that is what it is responsible for. It is not responsible for loss of heat. It is responsible for maintaining body temperature while we lose heat. So food metabolism is not the answer. Yes? Reproduction process, absolutely. Reproduction process is the answer here. Good, good. So that is what is responsible for loss of heat. That is why we have said this, no, that because of their such demanding breeding cycle, such a demanding reproduction process, every bit of warmth counts. Okay, because for their breeding cycle, they trek as far as 75 miles. So they lose heat in the process. They don't eat anything. So when they don't eat anything, metabolism can't work, right? So metabolism can't work. Therefore, again, loss of heat is going to happen because food burn nahi ho raha, to maintain nahi hoga body temperature. So yes, this can actually, lead to their losing body heat, and therefore 2 is the answer. Plumage helps them to gain back some of the heat. In fact, it keeps their bodies warmer ultimately. Thermal convection, again, it helps to gain back some of the heat, keeps the bodies warmer ultimately. So these cannot be the answers. Okay, it is 2. So good in case you understood this RC passage and were able to attempt the questions quickly, right? And in case things are not clear, you can still ask me. The major takeaway for you today should be that you should start reading speedily for those areas which you're comfortable with, smartly in general, and you should start working on your comprehension for those areas that you're currently not comfortable with. Ultimately, you should practice target based reading every day, right? And this is something that I've discussed with you, that you need approximately 250 words per minute. So check your reading speed today. Pick up a newspaper article, right? You can see at what time exactly you start, okay, and at what time exactly do you finish that article. Then count the words in that article and divide that by the time taken. Okay, timed in the end but minus time in the beginning. You will get your speed in words per minute. See where you stand. If it is less than this, then you need to work on your speed even more. Right? I hope this session helped you and you now understand this RC passage at least. Uh, in case you're preparing for CAT 2023, then these are the features that our CAT 23 comprehensive program has. Okay, you can enroll now. The link is in the description box. You can also call us at this number, which is given here in the bottom bar. Then for your for making your enrollments, for making our course accessible to students, we also offer scholarships. So you can get a up to 90% scholarship, depending on your score in the CAT scholarship test. So do take this test. It's going to happen on the 21st at 7 p.m. And again, let me assure you, it's not as difficult as CAT itself. Okay, we understand that you've not taken CAT yet, so we make it relatively easier, right? So register now. The link is in the description box again. And in case some of you are planning to take the CMAT, then this is our All India Open Mock for CMAT 23. It will go live on the 21st. You will get to understand the exam better through it. So again, you can register for it right now. Link in the description box. I hope you've subscribed to our channel. In case you haven't, please go ahead, subscribe to it right now. If you've not liked the session, do like it right now. And we can stay connected even via Telegram. Okay, so I am there on in our group BYJU'S Exam Prep MBA. So, and this is a group specifically for your doubts, so you can join this. Also, in our app also, we keep conducting sessions for CAT 2023. Okay, for building your fundamentals, for making the process easier for you. So you can download this and watch these sessions for free. All right. This is it from my side today. I'll see you again with another session. And don't worry, we will have TISNET sessions also in this month. Okay. Bye bye. See you.